So my parent series didn't really reach the target audience. Well, actually, it did reach its target audience. It was intended to encourage parents with young children to start looking for alternative means of living. If you cannot buy a house, how to search for homes for rent, duplexes, single story apartments versus living in the apartment complexes. But unfortunately, the only people who engaged were the people who are probably lifers in apartment complexes that think they run the place. And if you've ever had children or even animals, honestly, and you've lived in a certain complex, there are some people who have lived there for several years. I'm talking 50, 60, 70-year olds that do nothing but take pleasure in complaining on their neighbors. These are the miserable people that I was talking about. Not your everyday hardworking people who don't want to hear bumping and fighting and loud music at midnight and 1 a.m. And I'm sorry, I'm going to double down on everything that I said. If you're 60 plus years old and you have not established something for yourself, right? So that you don't have to live in these public types of complexes, you're the problem, right? Stop acting like you were never 20 years old, late 20s, early 30s, and having a family or having young children, being a worker, having to bring your kids to schools, daycares, all of that, just navigating life while trying to build financial freedom for yourself. These people will be miserable that they have not built anything for themselves, and they'll constantly complain on their neighbors. They'll constantly report them. They'll try to get them kicked out because they feel entitled to the apartment complex that they've been living in for 30 plus years. So, like I said, we do not live in a child free society, right? These children are here. They're going to keep being born. There's nothing that we can do to change that. If you are not a part of the solution, you're a part of the problem. To feel like because you pay rent or you live somewhere that you don't want to hear any bumping, any running, any child's laughter, any parent reprimanding or disciplining their kid is just unrealistic. Um, I work from home, so my kids are home with me all day long. I try my best to keep them entertained and content while I'm working, right? Because I do be on the phone and have to take calls, so I can't have them hooting and hollering and screaming all day while I'm working. However, when I get off, if I have to do dishes, if I have to cook, if I have to shower, if I have to take trash out, any type of errands around the house or chores or whatever, my baby's gonna cry sometimes. I wish I would have a neighbor that is constantly complaining or banging on the wall or banging on a heater because my kids are making noise or my kids are being too loud when I'm entertaining them as best as I can right there in the home. Especially if you're a 40, 50, 60-year old with no young children, what the fuck are you doing in that complex in the first place? Like, save that apartment for somebody that needs it. And I've always had this sentiment as somebody who grew up in public housing, right? My mom was a single mother. I grew up in public housing. So it's not that I'm not being understanding, but what I noticed was there would be a lot of lifetimers living in these apartments, and they would just be irritated by the sound of children. They would be trying to report on the moms who have kids if they're outside playing being too loud, if they're unattended and whatever. They just always got something to say, always trying to call Child Protective Services or Department of Children's and Families on somebody. And again, that is a miserable person to me because that is acting like you don't either A, remember when you were a kid yourself, or if you were a parent, B, you acting like you don't remember when your kids were young. Now, if you were abusive and super militant and your kids were to be seen and not heard, that's a whole other story. I would like to interview your adult children to see what the status of y'all relationship currently is. But I'm standing 10 toes down on what I was saying. You are not entitled to a child free world. You are not entitled to a world where you just are not inconvenienced in the slightest. If it bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. Build a bridge and get over it. But I did the series to empower parents to not even have to go through that, or not even have to put their children through those situations where they got to constantly keep them quiet, constantly nag at their kids to stop running, stop bumping, don't play in the house. Right. And every parent can't get off of work. The average person that maybe might get off of work at 5 or 6 p.m. If you think after doing homework and dinner and making sure your kids are that you have time every single day to bring your children outside for multiple hours, that's unrealistic, especially when you live in an apartment complex, especially when it's school time, right? Because the kids have to get in bed at a certain time to get up Monday through Friday to go get ready for their next day. So again, the series that I made about helping, started off as moms, helping moms, single moms in particular, learn how to look for houses for rent, learn how to find property management and realty companies that have units for sale that are not in apartment complexes. I did that because I grew up seeing a bunch of miserable adults trying to get people evicted, nagging at children, saying slick shit to kids when they're outside playing, opening up their window and talking shit out the window to kids that are outside playing. And half the time, it wasn't kids being bad or disrespectful, it was kids being kids. So, all of the nasty comments that I got across all my platforms, like saying my kids are bad and they're annoying and nobody likes bad kids and all of this shit. I have a child on the spectrum. He's not bad. Is he loud at times? Does he stem and hum and sing at times? Yeah. If that's annoying, you need to not live where there are children, because I hate to tell you, these kids are not going to stop being born. So once again, build a bridge and get over it. If you're not giving any type of real solutions or showing your neighbors where there's some resources to get help, maybe for after school care, any type of sports, any type of grants to get them in camp over the summer or whatever, you really need to shut the fuck up, because it's not easy. Y'all, people who are childless, love screaming about how it's hard in the economy, right? And y'all get into all these badass relationships to have a helpmate, but then you'll sit there and look down on the single parent who's busting their ass at work to provide for their children. Like, you can't have it every which way. Which way do you want it? So again, standing 10 toes down on the series. If anybody wants help looking in their county or their area for where to even start to try to rent a house because you've dealt with these types of nasty neighbors, hit me up in the DMs. I am more than available to assist you, because I do feel like children deserve safe spaces to be themselves and be free and not have to constantly be on a strict militant, be quiet, sit down, hush up 24/7. I personally feel like that's unrealistic. I personally feel like that's why there's a lot of people who are emotionally dysregulated in adulthood, and why the people who were commenting on a lot of my videos do get irritated by little things, because their parents were probably slapping the shit out of them every time they had some type of undesirable noise or trait that their parents didn't like, because their parents were pissed off after getting off of a long day from work. Everybody's not raising their kids like that. So y'all really need to wake the fuck up and grow the fuck up, period.